Hello and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Headlines. I'm your presenter, Odette Campbell, and this evening we're bringing to you a program we had originally thought we were going to bring last week, but we got word on the last minute that the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda was making changes to his schedule so that he could accommodate us and appear on last week's program. So this evening we are going to revisit the issue we hoped to address last week, which was education and new dispensation. And let's cross over to our panelists as we introduce them this evening. I'm pleased to present Dr. Cheryl Bishop. She is the education consultant. She's consulting for several agencies across the Caribbean region, and she's done consultancy work locally. She's been the operator of the Beacon Learning Center, also principal of the Beacon Learning Center. It started off as a Beacon Primary School, and now it has been enlarged. It consists of the pre-primary, primary, and the secondary school. Dr. Bishop, it's great to have you this evening. And we have a student from the Beacon Learning Center, Jailia Mitchell. Jailia, good evening. Great. We have Wendy Bynoe out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are Grenada and the Grenadines, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So we're glad to have one of our Grenadine sisters with us this evening. So Wendy Bynoe, she is the deputy principal of the CW Prescott Primary School. And the interesting part, she's also a student. She's pursuing a doctorate in teaching and learning with emerging technologies, TLET, with the UE Open Campus. Wendy, it's great to have you.
Thank you very much, Odette. Good evening to you, and good evening to the other panelists. Good evening also to viewers of Grenada Broadcasting Network.
Excellent. And we are going to make a stop a little further north. We're going to speak with Miss Camille Campbell. Let's make it clear that there is no relation. Camille Campbell. She is an associate counseling psychologist out of Jamaica. She works with children and adolescents and tots and teens in the Caribbean. So Camille, it is wonderful to have you on these shows this evening, albeit virtually. So there we have it, our panelists for this evening, and we're looking at education and new dispensation. There's a lot to talk about. We've gone online. We're looking at our children's mental health. We're looking at the academics. We're looking at the pressures being placed on students. And for the panelists outside of Grenada, we had the sad news on Friday that a student was found hanging. And that's something that Grenada is still trying to digest. He was one of, by academic standards, considered the creme of the crop. Creme de la creme, but unfortunately he was found hanging on Friday, and as we know, there was some kind of coincidence. It came out that happened just as CXC results 2021 were being released. So we would look at that as well as far as mental health and our students are concerned. So let's get right into it, and we're starting with Dr. Cheryl Bishop. Dr. Bishop, we've been looking recently with all that has been happening with education. It has been moved into a virtual sphere. Tell us a little bit about your role as an educator and thrusting the education system and online. How has that been going?
Well, first let me say that this has been a monumental leap in terms of the shift that took place from the face-to-face classroom to remote learning. But as you know, adaptation must take its course. Learning must continue. And so having to find ways and means to engage our students, and also particularly our teachers who are facilitators of learning, we have to ensure that training for those teachers were done strategically. In some instances, I do believe that we need to continue the training of teachers, because when you move online, you're talking about teachers' presence, interaction, being at the core of the students' learning. We're also talking about student-centered classroom, because if we are to engage our students and be on top of what UNESCO is asking us in terms of 21st century education, which involves collaboration, creativity, communication, critical thinking skills, then certainly the role ahead of us is a tremendous one. And so it's all-inclusive, where our Ministry of Education, all our schools, principals, teachers, all stakeholders must come on board in order for us to see the fruits of our labor, in order for us to yield good fruits at the end of all of this. And because the COVID truly has brought us to a place where we have to reap I would say we have to reset, we have to reimagine, we have to reorganize, restructure. We have to go on a move forward and not on a backward run. And so therefore it calls for robust collaboration. It calls for settling down and looking at policies that would speak to online learning, speak to remote learning at all levels, because I think we're in this thing for a big haul. And so it's not just a one day or a one shot. We need to understand that teaching may take place in a day, but learning takes place over time. And therefore, this shift has now brought our students and our teachers into a position where both parties have to look at new dimensions. Parental involvement has become very critical in this sphere. Principals' role too has become very critical, because they now have to be on a more monitoring line and monitoring teachers, monitoring students, speaking to parents, understand the entire process of this new trend that we find ourselves into. But I do believe that technology has its place, and I think that it has thrown us in the position where probably we have been delaying for some time. We now understand that technology is very effective in terms of enhancing learning, and therefore how we operate, how we embrace the technology, how we train our teachers, how we get our students to be receptive. All those things must be considered. And so it's challenging, but nothing is impossible. It's not what personally, in terms of what we bring, in as much as the attitude we have towards the understanding of this remote learning and how we intend to use it to ensure that our students move forward and not backward.
Great. And so, Wendy, in the Vincentian context, help to position us. What's happening there?
Well, we were forced into a situation where we had to enable our students to learn remotely, of course, because of COVID-19. It was unprecedented, and we relied heavily on the learning management system to make the transition. It's been a different experience learning at home during a crisis versus being in the face-to-face classroom. Of course, you'll appreciate that there are a lot more distractions at home. You have other siblings, you have other members of the family, chores, television. And at the physical school, it is a whole lot more focused. I hasten to add, though, that for a brand new format of learning, many of our teachers and students are doing a remarkable job. I have seen teachers bringing on their A game in their teaching materials and delivery, incorporating technological aids such as videos, PowerPoints, cartoons, digital photographs. I have really seen excellent lessons. However, many students, teachers, and parents have felt the brunt of remote learning. So with challenges ranging from working parents, little structure, and the inability for children to sit in front of a device for long periods of time, coupled with internet challenges, device challenges, online learning has been a struggle for a whole lot.
Okay.
From a pedagogical perspective, remote or online learning demands a shift towards more active learning methodology. And we need to look at this, for us. Our students, I think, they are adjusting pretty well. Some students reported it was a challenge for them to stay focused and motivated. As you know, to attend class online, students need a certain degree of technological proficiency, including the ability to successfully log in, participate in classes, submit work, and communicate with teachers and classmates. But our state has given them devices, so we have a whole lot more online these days.
Okay. And let's cross over to Jamaica, where we have Camille Campbell. Camille, situate us into the Jamaican situation.
Okay, here in Jamaica, there are a lot of factors that are impacting the online learning because, as Wendy and Cheryl mentioned, it's a community, right? It's everybody coming together, both from the school, the family, the community itself, because children complain not only of being on the online system, on being online for a long time, but you also have the work overload where there are lots of work, because the workload is completely different online than it is face-to-face. And so the workload has increased. And we also have to take into consideration the different areas of the society, right? And so you have those in the rural areas, you have those in the inner city, and so the challenges are there with internet connections in different areas, the devices, and also take into consideration the resources at home, right? And not just the family. And so for those who don't have the study to go in and set up as a classroom where you can have like an environment that feels like you're in a classroom, right? So we have to take into consideration those that are probably just living in a society where there is just a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom with an extended family, how to put a setting in place to facilitate the online, right? So all of these are challenges that we have to take into consideration for to going online, transitioning online. Remember, there wasn't training per se. It was a toss into based on the pandemic. And so it's a learning process as you go along. And so they have to be learning while going along and taking into consideration the teachers, because children, we have different kinds of children who struggle with different things. As was mentioned, the hyperactivity. We have children who are on the autistic spectrum. You have children with attention span that is very poor, low. And so, it's also a challenge for the teachers to put in place resources, to put in place strategies to facilitate all of these conditions, right? So it has been a challenge all around in order to come together to make this online work. And so we find that there's a challenge from all aspects, especially when you're also looking at the family setting, because the parents, especially for the younger ones, having to ensure that the younger ones are being monitored online when they too have to be working online. And so you find the challenges all around.
Yeah. Challenges all around, and so we're hearing both sides tonight, because we have heard from our two educators here that there are challenges, but they have leapfrogged and they're seeing some successes. Now let's go to our dear student, Jailia. Jailia, it's wonderful to have a youth voice this evening, and so there's been a lot of talking around you students. Now you are a student. Tell us how it has been for you, moving from where you had all your friends around you to you're now having to learn online. Tell us about that experience, Jailia.
I think the experience, it's not really a good one for me because I'm not around my teachers or my friends. So it's hard to communicate when you're online. You can't really make much friends. You can't get the teachers to really help you with your questions. And it's also with the distractions around in your house, the loud noises, you wouldn't be able to hear what the teacher is talking about, and then you can miss a lot of information. And as for most people also do have Wi-Fi issues, so they can't log on in time, and they'll be missing a ton of work, and it's going to be complaints from here and there, and it's not going to be really easy. So I feel like online school is not really the best right now. And if you were in person, it would be better. We can all communicate. The work would go frequently. It's going to go smoothly and there won't be no problems. And yeah, I just feel like that's what I have to say.
Okay. So, Jailia, you made a very important point, making friends. And we have the educators who are proud to report, that we've made this shift technologically. How important is making friends part of the learning process for you?
Well, I mean, it's probably not that important to me, but because I feel like learning is more important than making friends, because friends don't really like teach you much things. They just teach you about being loyal. But the schoolwork is what I think is really important and what we all need right now to help us on in the future. So that is what I would say.
But when you have assembly and everybody is singing together before you go into the classroom, I'm certain that helps to set the tone for the day, right?
Yes, it does. Some of us don't really, let's say, participate in the singing, and it's fine. But when you're singing all together, like the first day I had assembly, we were all singing together and talking, and I found it very hard to hear one person talk because they were all talking over each other's voices. So it was not really the best.
Okay. And you mentioned you can't get the teacher to help you with your work. And so sometimes that's an issue, right? Because you might be online and it's probably too hard to reach out and say, Miss, but if you're right there, Miss, I don't understand, you put up your hand and Miss will call on a student, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So we have laid the groundwork for tonight's discussion, and we, as per usual, we include as many voices as possible. What we'll do at this time is to revisit a report that was filed in the GBN News, Parents and Online Learning. Let's listen to the former president of the GUT articulate his perspective on this, and we'll come back with the panelists for more discussions.
This marks the third week since the start of the Michaelmas term that students have not returned to face-to-face or in-classroom settings. Principal of the Florida Government School and former president of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Marvin Andel, believes parents have a role to play in their children's learning process by being in the know.
I think it is very important for parents to acknowledge that they have a new role in this dispensation. Now, first of all, it is my belief that all parents should take some time out to learn how children learn and understanding how the brain works, because the organ of learning is the brain. And now that parents are going to be more directly involved in the students' learning, it is important that, first of all, that they understand how students learn.
He said parents should take it upon themselves to create a conducive environment in the home for online learning. However, this, he admits, is a challenge.
So, the conduct of persons in the household while online classes are going is a concern. Sometimes cameras are on, people walking about in the house barely clothed, speaking as normal. Even in their regular conversations, there are obscenities being used, harsh language, and that's coming through virtual classes. So parents have to recognize that the home has become the classroom. So what is said is heard in the classroom, and we do not accept obscenities. And so in the classroom, we do not accept nakedness in the classroom. So we should not bring it there through the virtual environment.
The principal shared some tips for parents who are not always at home during class time to ensure that children attend classes. Andel also recommends that parents keep in constant contact with teachers.
It is possible to have a responsible adult supervise their engagement in online classes that can help. Some teachers recognize that students might be on, but the device is on, but they're not there. So teachers are asking students to put on their cameras so that they can see and ensure that they're engaged. In some instances, asking a student to put on the camera based on the living condition may cause some discomfort or embarrassment. They might want people to see how the house looks or does not look. And In such instances, to avoid that, we can use virtual backgrounds so that the inside of the house is not seen.
Students, he added, are also impacted negatively by the pandemic, and so the mental health must be given consideration. Chrislina John, GBN News.
So quite a myriad of issues there as articulated by Mr. Marvin Andel. He's the principal of the Florida Government School and the former president of the Graded Union of Teachers. I'm going to go to Dr. Bishop on this one. Dr. Bishop, we saw Mr. Andel blushing when he's highlighting some of the issues. Camille, one of the things he spoke about is mental health, which we'll come to you for. And I want to ask Wendy about the Vincentian experience, because there he was saying that nakedness is not accepted in the classroom. Mr. Andel, I'm in my house, Mr. Andel. That's my argument as a parent, maybe. And so the use of foul language is not allowed in the classroom. Mr. Andel, like, really, I'm not in your classroom, but we'll come to you for that. But Dr. Bishop, as the operator of a school and as an education consultant, the crossover between home and school and the role of parents. Articulate that for us, please.
Well, parents have always been, will always be an important variable in terms of student success, student learning, all right? Because we know that it's the home, it's the school, it's the child. However, this, as I said earlier, I think that this plunge has put parents into a position where they do need to play their role in terms of assisting their children. But we do have to understand that because of the norms and culture within certain homes and value systems within certain homes, even belief system, there's some parents who would want to truly love, to monitor, and to assist their children. But for some reason, they're unable to do that. And so I believe that the school must take a whole school approach to all of this. How can we as a school begin to help parents to understand their role and to help them to be more effective and efficient in how they teach their children? So I think it's a whole cultural shift that has to take place between the home and the school, between the students and the teacher. So it calls for monitoring, yes. It calls for that sense of motivation from the school to the student, to the parent. It calls for teachers to have one-on-one with parents. What we have established is that we have parent meeting. We also look at parents who might be having certain problems and meet with them on a one-on-one and assist them in terms of how they can assist their children. There's some parents who probably have to go to work, and what we were thinking of establishing lately is some learning hubs where we probably can take some students into a room, or maybe let's say maybe at the school, where we can space some of them out because maybe at their home they don't have the facility, or maybe they do have the device, but the connectivity is not there, the monitoring is not there. If we can bring them into the school where the protocol in terms of for COVID-19 is being fully enforced, and we put them into rooms where not many of them, though, those who really need this kind of help, so the parents get a chance to be at work, be productive at work, because at the same time, they have to be at work. And many bosses would not want the parent to be calling home every now and again, see what the child is doing. You can't bring the child to work with you. Even if you're at home as a parent working, you have your work to do as well. So I think what we are looking at right now at North Beacon is a whole school approach where we can assist these parents to help their children. And so we've established, we have a values-based system that we've been having for quite a while now, and we're trying more now to look at some factors where we, as those who are in charge in terms of the academic side of things, can help parents to assist their children at home. I think also. So,
before we go to your other point, Dr. Bishop, so you're looking at the crossover and looking at the holistic approach. But I wanted to go to Wendy to ask her about St. Vincent and to highlight for us if there are any commonalities in some of the points raised by Mr. Andel.
My brother Andel. Yes, I join in support of my colleague, Brother Andel. We have similar issues. The issues are not unique to Grenada. We're in the same storm, just in different boats. And so for many families, this is beyond difficult in terms of space. The students are at home, as he mentioned, and our teachers are also in their homes or in their offices. So we always have to be on guard about that. We've had some of the same issues related to the way parents would chat when class is going on. So we've had to have a little talk with our parents. We've spoken to them in our class meetings, our PTA meetings, and remind them that, we are there. We don't want to be hearing the conversation on the phones. We don't want, we want this situation to be as normal as possible for our students. So we have recommended a little quiet area somewhere in the house, in the bedroom, wherever. We've asked parents because we have had to increase our parental involvement. So we've asked parents to ensure that their children come online, ensure that they're properly attired and they themselves. One of the issues that he did not mention, but we have an issue with, and maybe it's common across the region, is the issue of parents responding to teachers for the students. That is a major issue we face when our teachers ask students for responses. We usually have parents, so maybe a teacher might say to a little one, spell the number 10, and the parent will be in the background saying TN. A lot of them have been doing helicopter parenting. So they hover a lot. And so that is an issue that we face. We do not have a problem with support from the parents because we need them to support us in this new normal. But those are some of the issues we face as well.
Okay, so Camille, I'm coming to you because I need somebody to help me cut and dissect. I mean, come on, Wendy. You're telling me, we've heard from Dr. Bishop that I must get more involved and I must help. And then when I'm answering to you at this 10, you're still complaining. So what do you want, eh? Tell us in Jamaica now, how we address this now, Camille?
Parent training. Okay. All right. So
sorry to throw that Jamaican lingo at you. I'm sorry.
And we look at it's sometimes a challenge to really find that small little space in the room or in a house where the child can function, right? And I guess that is one of the biggest challenge for some parents. But it also has to do with mental, in terms of doing the transition mentally as a parent to make the transition from home to school, although you're in the home. And that has to be from a mental perspective, right? To always be reminded that it is now time for school and not home as normal. One of the reasons or one of the ways we can do that is basically to create our own little charts. Put the resources where the child is, or the resources, the books that the child needs, create in that environment something that looks like a classroom. So it helps you, right, to be mindful that it is not home as usual, but this is now the new normal of having the home into a school at this point. So it's not just making the transition physically, but helping to make the transition mentally. And by doing that, the space has to look like school.
Okay, but that is if I have the space, because we've heard where some households are basically a 1-bedroom and you have extended families, a 2-bedroom, and we've heard that. We want to take a commercial break, but let me ask Jailia. Jailia, earlier you had spoken about distractions, and do you think that your teachers understand the challenge you probably have with distractions? Or you might have heard from some of your schoolmates that, they live near the road and people are passing in the roadway and they're speaking very loudly, the vehicles are passing up and down. Tell us about distractions with online learning, Jailia.
The distractions are very bad. They make you lose the focus. You lose your focus if you're trying to focus on a piece of work that the teacher gave to you. She's repeating it and she wants you guys to hear it. Fine. There could be dogs barking. There could be people on the street making a lot of noise. And even if you try to tell your mom to fix this, put you in a different room, it can still be a bit distracting because wherever you go into a quiet space in your house, there can still be lots of distractions. Your mom can be talking on the phone too loud, and then you can't focus. And if you have siblings, they'll be little siblings. They can come and distract you from your work. And the teachers should be able to understand. You can talk to the teachers afterwards about the whole distraction and the whole situation that happened, and maybe the teacher and the mom can talk it out and see if they can get a better place for the student to focus on their work.
So, Wendy, I see you smiling. Something that Jailia is saying is making a lot of sense to you, I can tell.
Yes, the distraction, it's real. There are many. So, and we know that many of our students also use the opportunity to play games or go on the social media accounts. So we encourage teachers to ask them to put their cameras on so we know that they're there and they're paying attention.
Great. So she said, indeed, the distractions could be many. This is Beyond the Headlines on GBN Television, and thanks for following us on our social media platforms. This evening, we're discussing education. It's a new dispensation with our panelists from Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Jamaica. We also have a student with us. We'll be right back after these commercial break messages.
Babies well after an emergency or disaster. Infants 6 months and older need clean, safe, complementary foods along with breast milk to meet their nutrient needs. Continue to breastfeed while gradually introducing foods one at a time from various food groups. A message from the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council in collaboration with the Ministry of Health with support from the Pan American Health Organization.
Introducing Color by Seasons. 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 Color by Seasons.
We support you at every stage of your life.
For business,
for your education,
for your financial freedom.
For that new ride.
Upgrade your life with the Communal. Contact us today.
Are you looking for quality herbs and herbal supplements? Or are you thinking about having a complete body cleanse to jumpstart your health? Then no need to look further. Visit Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. We carry a wide range of herbal products for kidney and gallstone cleansing, male sexual enhancement formulas, asthma and sinusitis, gas and bloating, acid reflux, constipation, arthritis, imbalanced hormones, female health issues, liver cleansing, weight loss, and so much more. Also available, colonic irrigation, holistic health consultations, essential oils, and diffusers. Look out for our online natural health store coming soon. Call 231-6642 418-7115 or 449-7753 to find out about our delivery options or to book an appointment. Visit us at Belmont St. George's, close to the Foliage, Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic. Detox your way to health.
Dear customers, as we do our part to limit the impact of COVID-19 in Grenada, Grenlec remains committed to providing a service you can depend on. And in these challenging times, we appreciate your effort to keep your account current. Our 24-hour mobile and online services are great for convenience and maintaining social distance. Call 237 for 24-hour bill balances or to report faults and emergencies. Pay your bills online with internet banking, available with Republic, First Caribbean, and Grenada Cooperative Bank. For other queries, email customer support at grenlec.com. Together, we can keep each other safe. Together, we will smile again.
And welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. This evening we're discussing education and new dispensation. A reminder of our panelists this evening, Dr. Cheryl Bishop. She's an education consultant. She's the operator of the Beacon Learning Center, which consists of a pre-primary, a primary, and secondary school right here in Grenada. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have Wendy Bynoe. She's a deputy school principal of the CW Prescott Primary School, and she's pursuing a doctorate in technology and learning with emerging technologies. And in short, it's called TLET and is run by the University of the West Indies at the Open Campus. She's doing it online, so she'll have some perspectives to share as a student. And we also have Camille Campbell. She's an associate counseling psychologist out of Jamaica. She works with children and adolescents at Tots and Teens Caribbean. And our youth ambassador this evening, we have Jailia Mitchell. She's a Form 1 student at the Beacon Learning Center. And ladies, it's great to have an all-women panel this evening. I have one of the followers of the program, Glynis Roberts. She's always accusing me of not having women on the panel, always a set of men. So, Auntie Glynis, tonight I'm pleased to present an all-women, all-female cast, if you want to call it that. So let's continue the discussion. And I have to say that I had my own list of questions, but I need to go to our social media platforms where from the get-go, the contributions started coming in this evening. And so some of the questions that are being placed: our children have been displaced by COVID-19. Are they becoming ticking time bombs? Are they learning or losing? Are they grinning and bearing it? What signs should parents look for? And some of the issues that have been brought to the fore. One parent says, I really believe they're ticking time bombs. If we don't monitor them and check their screen time, also we as parents need to spend time with them together as a family, even though because of COVID you cannot go out as you'd like to. Well, my children are grinning and bearing it because I have not seen that much change in them, and they're still the same. The only thing is they're drifting away from God. Some are learning, some have fallen apart, some have gotten weaker in some subject areas. Some of the signs, or the main one, is when they seem withdrawn and want to be by themselves, spending too much time online, not wanting to be with their family or to do things with family, and not talking too much. So, Dr. Bishop, are our children becoming ticking time bombs?
Wow, that's a strong statement. I would not say that, though. I would not say they're becoming ticking time bombs, but I do believe that as educators, we have to understand that the traditional way of learning, traditional school's curriculum has to be looked at. I think we cannot go the same route as we were going traditionally. So, for instance, the regular school, they had, let's say, 7 to 8 class periods. I mean, you really cannot go now online and say you're doing 7 35-minute sessions with the students. It just doesn't make much sense. Usually you want to have assembly, they come on, then they break, they come back on their lunch, come back on. I think there's just too much pressure placed on the children. And I don't think much is being done at that time. Because as Jailia said earlier, because of the connectivity, sometimes the time a child takes to come online, a full 5 minutes is gone. Then the teacher comes on. Another 5 minutes gone. How much time do you really have? Then we have teachers, in some schools, various teachers are using different platforms. So the kids are rushing from one to the other. They're confused. So I think schools have to have maybe just one platform. And so I think in terms of a school probably tailoring a platform to suit, what's going on at the school. So maybe if you're using Zoom, we're all using Zoom. If you're using this, and one may say, well, you use what you what is best for you. But think about the children. We're talking about here, I think we need to have more chunks in terms of teaching rather than the isolated watershed periods. I think we need to look at project-based type learning where parents can become involved in the learning. And so the children now are interactive with the learning. They're more student-centered in terms of the learning. The whole interactiveness of learning takes place. But because of the entire system that we have inherited, where we're so exam-oriented, we still stuck to this old traditional mood. And therefore, I think pressure is sometimes being placed on the children. Because sometimes as teachers, you think, well, I still have to finish the syllabus, so I'm teaching. Whether they learn or not, I'm teaching because I need to finish these particular courses of work. And I do believe that if we shift from that to more project-based type learning, where we bring the children at the core of the learning, the whole corporate learning mood will add more, where real life situations, real life experiences are connected to the academic. Then we'll have better children. So we can have them, you have project-based type learning, you have, let's say you have a particular subject, let's say agriculture. Tonight I heard the minister talking about food security and so forth. How much do our children know about these? And if only we can pull that into our teaching in terms of project-based type learning, where we get a pointed question that speaks to the whole idea of how can families become involved in food security? How can families use agriculture as a base in terms of providing for their students, for the children, in terms of continuity and sustainability of the economy? And you give a little synopsis. Then you can see children and parents being involved in the eagerness to work together. Yeah, but really and truly, there's a partition that has been built between the children in a sense. I remember we are social beings. And therefore, if we don't take stock of what is happening in terms of the monitoring, probably we can cause there can be some slight problems with some children, especially those who do not have that, the parents, let's say, on the side to monitor them, probably who is in a home, as we said earlier on, where you have maybe only one device, connectivity is failing all the time. And that's a point. And the problems of, can I get my work done? Then we have teachers who just put work on the system and say, this is the assignment, do it. I need it by 4 o'clock in the evening. Where is the flexibility? Where is the feedback to these children? Where's the motivation? Where's the inspiration? And so I think we need to check on what we are doing, look holistically at this whole plan, look at the child first of all, because I believe the child is the first curriculum. I think we have ignored them somewhat. Let's look some more at their interests and see how best we can incorporate, how best we can enhance this whole teaching and learning so that everyone succeeds. And if we do not take stock early enough, whether we have device, whether we have connectivity, if we don't look more closely at the child who's at the nucleus of what we're doing, then probably we may have chicken bomb. I'm sorry to say that, but which I really hope we're not molding such. Right. So teachers, we have to get more involved in the learning.
Got you there. We have a parent who's on point with what you're saying. The parent says, in a nutshell, the younger kids ages 3 to 6 are at a disadvantage most, and that should not be. At that age, children learn through play. And so since they're home, parents and guardians should use the opportunity to engage the kids in outdoor activities. And that person is also saying this also aids in their kinesthetic learning. It's important to know that children need to develop coordination before they master the skill of writing. Most of the Zoom sessions last for an hour. The average attention span of a 3-year-old is 9 minutes. Wendy?
I somewhat agree with her, but we can also arrange play dates via Zoom. We know what the situation is like, and we cannot have them interacting with their little friends. We know that they depend on their friends at this age. They're social beings, and it helps with their social development as well. So to fix that, we can organize play dates on video calls for them, just organize an afternoon where, because we've been having Zoom parties, so we can have Zoom play with other children, other other friends, other family members, and so on. So we can arrange that. But I quite agree with the sister. We have a chance now. This COVID-19 pandemic has offered us a rare chance to rethink education entirely, because it has brought home the realities about how we educate children. So an opportunity presents itself for us to do a whole lot better, not just during the pandemic, but even after. So education planners, ministries of education, teachers, parents, everybody this has to be a whole approach to, redoing education. When we walk into a physical classroom, they have the parents of the classroom. I walked into in 1979 when I was a little girl. The same configuration of desk, cupboard in a corner, and these rigid specimen. So we need to have things change. Even the school schedule, like Miss was saying a while ago, remains the same, 35 hours of weekly instruction and stuff like that, the same homework. So we need to do things differently. However, I think many of the students are improving. I think this is their thing. They are digital natives. They are happier somewhat, because especially the teenagers, they don't have to wake at 5 to get ready for school, to wait for a bus, to commute. They can wake up at 7:45 and be in class for 8:15. So I think a whole lot of them are happier, they're less stressed than when they were sitting in a classroom. And a lot of them are really excelling, and they have also been freed from bullying somewhat. When they're in the face-to-face sessions, face-to-face classroom at school, at the physical plant, many of them encounter bullying. But we can't forget that we also have children who depend on school meals and who depend on the teacher for love as well.
So let me ask Jailia then. Jailia, Ms. Bynoe just said that some of the children are happy, and also want to ask you to recommend how this can be done differently, Jailia. But first, are you happier?
At the start of online school, I was a bit happy because I'm home. But now that it's been a couple of months now, I'm not that happy because I'm not in school.
So there you have it, Ms. Bynoe. You have a student, and we could do a sampling and find out we could replicate that possibly. But Camille, I saw you nodding when Dr. Bishop was speaking a little bit earlier, and you were nodding because?
Feel her passion, and I was having the same discussion today. Teaching cannot be the same. It's not teaching as usual. The style has to change. The children has to feel the energy. It can't be the same kind of teaching. It has to be more like projects, more interaction.
Engagement.
And no, it's going to take a lot more, because the teachers will now have to do more research to see, okay, how do I teach this without using the regular method? Something that can appeal to, depending on the age group. Because what may work for a 3 to 6 may not work for a 13 to 18 or 13 to 16. So it's not for the teachers. And I know that's why I said it's challenging on each side, because there's transition everywhere. And adjusting is difficult. And so the teachers now would also have to adjust. As someone said today, we're asking the children to adjust. We're asking them to adapt.
Yeah.
But the teachers will also have to adapt.
Of course.
They will also have to adjust.
Certainly.
The parents too would also have to adapt and also have to adjust. And so because so much pressure is on the students, you find a lot of them being unmotivated, not going into the classes as usual. Be bothered. This is too much. And so you find that they're going into a state of depression and they're withdrawing because they're unmotivated and their coping mechanism has reduced to deal with all of this change. because they are tossed into the system and it appears as if they're the only ones who are being asked to adjust. They become very bored, and so you find the distractions. You find them going online and playing games. And have we stopped to ask ourselves the question, what is it that is causing them? What is the antecedent that is motivating these children to go on these gaming sites? And I can tell you because them tell me, yeah, they are bored. And they tell you, oh, this thing is bored, so I just find something else to do in the meantime.
And you find that if they were in the classroom, you could engage them a little more.
As Dr. Bishop says, yes, give them breaks in between. Because it's difficult to have a student online for over 45 minutes, just sitting down staring at a screen and listening to him teaching. It's hard.
Great.
Yeah. And then they are being beaten and battered because, oh, you're online playing games and you should be studying and you should be paying attention and you're not paying attention. The children are dealing with challenges and having to adjust. They're bored because the teaching style is the same.
Yeah.
And it's different being in the classroom than having to deal with this teaching style online.
Yeah. And let me ask Jailia about this, though. Jailia, so the teachers here, Jailia, have been talking about the need to do this differently. So based on your experience, if you become a teacher next week, next year, what will you do differently to make this engaging for students?
Well, I will give them breaks during a time so they can, have a free time, because if they continue to just keep on working, it's pressuring them a lot and it could make them do lots of crazy stuff. And I don't want that to happen if I were a teacher. I want them to have a break. I want them to, have a cool down before we go on to the next session. And I wouldn't want to put pressure or force on the children. I want to start off easy first and then go on to making it more teachable.
Great. And there is a report that we want to look back on where we actually had a look at in an online classroom. We'll get to that shortly. But one person here is saying, totally remote learning has certainly taken a toll and has resulted in unfinished learning and huge learning gaps. How have teachers been supported to meet the demands and needs of students who have experienced the trauma of learning to navigate an LMS, for example? Has a curriculum that supports students' emotional needs been implemented? If yes, how has it been incorporated in the daily instruction? And Dr. Bishop, I'd like to ask you to take 1 minute to answer that, about 60 seconds to answer that, because I want to cross to that report. So looking at the need, has the curriculum that supports students' emotional needs been implemented? And if yes, how has it been incorporated in daily instruction? If we could just take 60 seconds on that so we could cross to that report.
No, I don't think we've looked at that at all. As I was saying earlier, I don't think we've really looked at the child, as at the core of all of this. One of the things that I know that I have done is to have one of my sessions now that I call as a beacon, that's called character education, where we do every week a session of character building, character education, talking about the self-esteem, the child individuality, his or her belief system, the whole values approach to learning, and that value system he or she needs to stand on. How do you make friends? I have incorporated that into our school's curriculum because I believe it's important for them to understand who they are, because otherwise they'll truly be lost just in the same route of the academic work, back and forth. We do have to, and that point that was made in terms of an emotional curriculum really and truly has its place. And as earlier it was said, that if we need to restructure and reimagine and redesign and reset this thing altogether, then that will be taken into consideration.
Great. And let's cross now to that in an online classroom report so we can take a look at how that played out and have some comments on that.
It it is clear that face-to-face learning is not going to happen anytime soon. Many are foreseeing students spending their entire first semester on their online platform. But what are online classes like for students, and how are teachers finding the right methods to keep them excited about learning? We visited the home of Miss Alina Roberts to get an insight into what the online class is like, as one of her sons report to school daily online. Roberts' oldest son is a grade 1 student who attends the St. Giles Anglican School. GBN caught him in the middle of one of his classes. When asked about her son's attention span maintaining focus, Roberts says that the teachers try their very best to keep the class interactive, but understanding that children are easily distracted, she is always there to ensure he stays on track.
I must indeed commend the teachers for the great effort they are making, because I recall some of the teachers were even afraid of the technology, but I'm seeing them exploring the Zoom platform, even exploring different platforms and making the sessions very fun and interactive. The teachers are doing an excellent job. Sometimes with the internet, sometimes you get unstable internet and being focused. I think that's really the challenges. But sometimes you have little hiccups, with other children. Sometimes, they're a little bit rowdy. But we all know children, it's very difficult to keep them put. But bearing in mind all of these circumstances, I think they're doing a superb job.
The mother says that while she understands how difficult it is for some parents to ensure that children remain attentive to their classes, she must say that the online platform has positively impacted how parents are now showing interest in their children's education.
I'm really impressed too with the support of the parents. Sometimes when you have the face-to-face, you don't see much of the parents, involvement. But I believe through this online, I'm seeing much more of the parents. You would see them, helping the child find the page or assisting the child with the work that they have to do. So yes, I'm seeing a lot of parental involvement.
She has this advice for parents out there who are still struggling to adjust to the online learning and teaching platform.
I know sometimes it can be a little bit, challenging because you're not accustomed. You're accustomed, you dress your child and you send them off in the hands of the teacher. But see it as an opportunity where you as the parent can bond a little bit more with the child and use it as as a stepping stone where you can help the child better in education.
For GBN News, I am Rena Pett Thomas reporting.
Wendy, I see you smiling.
I quite agree with her. I know teachers are really making a great effort to engage students fully during the classes. And we do offer breaks every probably 20, 30 minutes. We offer a 5-minute break for them to stretch, for them to get some water or something. But I agree that online learning is here to stay. It has gained popularity throughout the pandemic. And from all indication, even with the vaccine for COVID, we believe that it is here to stay. We are hearing talks of blended learning, hybrid, and stuff like that. So I think it's here to stay. And I think it's the right way to go. We cannot continue to educate our students, our digital natives, our digital babies in analog classrooms.
Mm-hmm. And we have somebody here saying, how is COVID-19 impacting the families? Everybody getting along, or is the stress taking a toll on family relations? There have been reports of children being abused in the Is there counseling available? And with the police already stretched, will that embolden the perpetrators? There are reports of students in St. Vincent being abused in the emergency shelters, and many were giving up on school, not sure if the shelters still exist, but these children would have been traumatized. Anything there, Wendy?
I am not sure about that. I cannot comment on that. I think that's one of the issues that was raised in terms of online learning and children being at home for very long periods of time. Sexual abuse and hunger. Those are two of the major issues that continue to show itself, not just in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but across the world, across the region, across the world.
Okay.
But I cannot comment on what happens at shelter. I was a shelter manager, but that did not happen at my shelter.
Okay. And we hear a lot about the pressure, and we want to segue into that shortly. We had this unfortunate incident in Grenada on Friday where a 17-year-old student, very bright student from what we gather, was found hanging at his house. And there's a lot of talk about pressure and academics. Jailia, do you feel pressured to perform?
I do feel a bit pressured when I have to perform in class or anywhere. I would sometimes have a little bit of breakdowns, and I feel like it's too much pressure sometimes right now when I'm doing online school. I feel like there's a lot of pressure going on. Just the other day, I had a bit of a struggle with math, and I kind of had a bit of a breakdown because I couldn't understand the word, and the teacher was explaining it well, but I just couldn't really get the full point. So I had a bit of a breakdown, but my mom had came in to help me, and she told me that I have a weak side of work and non-weak side of work. So there's some things that I might struggle with and some things I might not. So I shouldn't really, be so angry because we all have our weak side.
So she has some support. Mom is going to reinforce that, you wouldn't get everything right, but when you have a student who does not have a mom like Jailia to support her, Dr. Bishop, you can see where the challenge is. The whole issue of pressure on students to perform. But we will just hold off on that for a little bit, because there's an issue, I believe, with online connectivity, and the government here, through the stimulus package, launched a program to assist with that. Let's go to that report and we talk about online connectivity, because we've had some comments on that as well. And Wendy, we're getting some contributions out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Seems like if you have a huge following there, so people are commenting from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let's go to internet connectivity, and we'll also try to squeeze in some phone calls this evening.
1,500 households will benefit from the Internet Connectivity Program. It is part of the Stimulus Package 2.0, which is designed to bring relief to various sectors of the population. Coordinator Jeffrey Gilbert says this program has great significance at this time.
This program has a very particular significance at this point in time. There's no need to remind us that we are operating in a pandemic. Schools are closed. The delivery of education and learning services are done via a virtual mode. And this is why this component of the program is so critical. We cannot stop, throw hands in the air because the COVID pandemic is here. Our children's education is critical. It's critical. It's a critical building block for the development of this country.
Providing assistance to families so that their children can have access to the online platform. There's a tripartite approach to the project.
So a parent, a guardian, is expected to make a contribution of $20 towards the program. The government of Grenada will contribute $30, and a telecom service provider will make a contribution of $54. So the total contribution is $104.
Mr. Gilbert says the pandemic has affected our everyday living, but this is not a time for reckless abandonment.
So again, I just want to stress how critically important this segment is. The education of our children is a critical pillar in our development. While the pandemic rages, the more students can be positively engaged in training and development, we would certainly see some positive fruits down the road.
Students must have a great attendance record, and this will be verified by data captured through the schools, which are then submitted to the Ministry of Education. He says there will be limits, and students will not be able to roam the entire internet because of the level of bandwidth being provided through the Internet Connectivity Program. Joseph Kador, GPN News.
And let's cross to Jamaica and ask Camille. Camille, internet penetration rates in Jamaica, how is that? Because we understand that's a major determinant of how children access the programs and how will they participate.
Yes, that has been an issue to an extent, right? However, we have recognized that the providers are really trying to assist the best way they can, because they have provided access to the internet for students, but there are still areas that are challenged. So if you're in the Kingston area, you might have less challenge, although there's still challenge, but there is less challenge. But there are other areas that are completely without the internet, where there are areas that the internet signal is very poor. And so that has been a great challenge in terms of the online classes. So there are students who haven't been to classes for a while because they can't get online because they don't have that kind of resource.
Okay. Let me just go to Wendy here, because out of St. Vincent, we have someone saying a major issue seems to be connectivity. Some students are being kicked out of class or unable to access classes due to poor connections, and it could be spotty. Even teachers sometimes face this issue. What's your connectivity rate like in St. Vincent, Wendy?
That's one of our greatest challenges, Odette. And this has been reported by teachers and students while learning remotely. It could be due to any number of socioeconomic, geographic, or technical reasons. So equity of access can impact the learning experience. There are days when we have poor connectivity or no connectivity, and it is really a scourge. And we have some students who are experiencing even greater levels of disadvantage and are not able to participate in remote learning at all. And this is not just due to poor connectivity, but also the digital divide, because that is real. Our telecommunications companies have come on board, though, and they offer our preferred network, our LMS, is Microsoft Teams. So Digicel, for example, offers free data to our students accessing Microsoft Teams from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I think there's an arrangement with Flow as well. So that has created a greater impact. And we have 700 and something students at our school, and we've had over 90% online, and consistency, because of course, sometime in May or June, the state gave students from grade 2 to college a tablet. So that has improved a great deal.
Okay.
But that's the issue. The connectivity is a real issue.
Okay, thanks so much for helping us to understand what's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as far as that is concerned. And we want to go to another report, Cabinet to deliberate school reopening. That's a report that we ran about a week and a half ago, and we're waiting for updates on that. So let's just look at what the minister was saying at that point, and then we'll go into the discussion on reopening of schools, possibilities, and also looking at the pressures our students are under.
Education Minister Emmeline Pearce says Cabinet will soon convene to chart the way forward for the reopening of schools, while teaching and learning at present continue via the online platform.
As to what that final decision will be as it relates to vaccination and school reopening, we expect that our consultation period would end in the next week, right? And Cabinet would take a final decision as it relates to education, the return of students, and then we would be informing the public as to how we are going to move with a first phase of return to the classroom. And note I'm saying first phase, that will not be every student in Grenada.
Minister Pearce said that while Grenada's COVID-19 cases continue to show a downward trend, many issues must be taken into consideration to ensure the safety of the nation's children.
We do have a number of students with underlying conditions. Asthma, high blood pressure, diabetes, it is the fact, right? Now, should we return to school this year, right? And let's just talk about this year. So let us assume November we're going to return to school, or sometime late in October, I don't know. There's absolutely no way that we can consider these students as we did before. There's absolutely no way, because the risk would be too high for this group of students, and unfortunately there are a number of them.
As is becoming the trend, vaccination will play a key role in the resumption of face-to-face teaching and learning. Both students 12 years and over and teaching and supporting staff within the school compound are encouraged to take the available Pfizer or AstraZeneca vaccines.
We want to make sure we give as many students as possible an opportunity to return to school. And that opportunity, I'm saying, will be increased if more of our students or most of our students are vaccinated, most of our teachers are vaccinated.
Grenada, as of Wednesday night, recorded 650 active cases, of which 47 are new. 2 deaths were recorded and 44 people are hospitalized. The records show that 26,003 people are fully vaccinated and 9,572 are partially vaccinated. Cherry and Blackman Stephen, GBN News.
Just a reminder that that report was filed a week and a half ago. We had prepared to do this program last week, but we entertained that report. Dr. Bishop, what are you hearing from the Ministry of Education regarding any possibility of any form of the reopening of schools?
Well, nothing really. There was a meeting last week, just a little bit of discussion on reopening of school, and I was not present, but the one who represented us, private schools, somebody represented the Private School Association, but I spoke to other principals who I'm friendly with, and it's the whole thing about being vaccinated in terms of going back to school, and there's great resistance there. And so I believe if there's resistance in terms of the vaccination, then going back to school will be delayed. I think one has to, maybe more education has to be done, but I must say that I believe the government has done a great job in terms of, offering education, doing as much as they can in terms of letting us know the reality of the vaccination and the whole health process in our country. Yet some people are very much resistant in terms of vaccination, but I stand with it that if we have to go back to school, I believe that we have to be vaccinated. If we're asking other people, other aspects, other workplaces to be vaccinated, why not us as teachers, as educators? Because the children that we are going to intermingle with, throughout the day, if they're not vaccinated, we are not, then what happens? There shouldn't be any force. I agree with not being forced to do it. But I think so much has been said, and I don't know why there's that big resistance or that big barrier in terms of the vaccination. But I believe that that's something that the ministry would consider. And I guess the longer we delay, the longer we stay at home.
And so, Camille, in Jamaica, is there a mandate or are the schools any kind of face-to-face yet? What's the situation as far as vaccination and returning to schools?
Okay, so here in Jamaica, there is no face-to-face as yet. I think the government is working towards that, though, in terms of trying to get, not mandated, but encouraging that the children become vaccinated so that they can go back to face-to-face. So I think what they're trying to do is get a good percentage of the students vaccinated so that you can have a reopening of school face-to-face. And the children too, although some of the parents might be reluctant, I think the children are very much willing because they're really want to get back out there and they're anxious in getting back out there. And so they really want to get vaccinated because they want to go back to school face-to-face. Okay. And so I think that is the direction now, working towards ensuring that a good percentage of the students are vaccinated so that we can start having face-to-face classes again.
And Wendy, what's it like in St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
I believe in pro-choice, so let me make that clear. But I think our teachers, I know we've had issues with teachers embracing the vaccine, but I think teachers can speak to their doctors if you don't have medical or religious reasons why you shouldn't have it. Why not? Because I think as teachers, we are more exposed to COVID-19 once we return to face-to-face. We will be more exposed, unlike other professions, because the nurses have their PPEs and they have something to protect themselves. We have students coming in from probably 40 different homes. We might have 40 children in our class. And so we need to return to face-to-face, and we have to make some effort. We know how it is with children. The social distancing is an issue with them because children naturally like to hug, like to play with each other, and that's going to be an issue. When we have huge class sizes, that in itself is already an issue. So we need to look at those children who are being left behind, those children who cannot come online at all.
Okay. Jailia, I'm sparing you that. I'm not asking you the vaccine question. We want to get ready. We're getting ready to wrap it up. The whole issue of pressure on students. We have a report out of the sister island of Carriacou with one of the top performer in the CXC exams. We'll only take about a minute of it. We can't entertain the entire report because we're running out of time. So that report is CXC Carriacou top performer. As we October the 15th, I believe. Today's October the 18th. Yes, so October 18th, Carriacou CXC top performer, CXC Carriacou top performer. So while we get to that report, Dr. Bishop, we had this unfortunate incident on Friday where a 17-year-old student was found hanging in his room, and it brings into focus the question that was asked earlier. Some of our students ticking time bombs. Is COVID-19 too much for them to handle? And I believe it was somebody talking about, Dr. Bishop, you're talking about the character classes that you do, but on Friday, a parent checked in on her child and asked her, why aren't you in SLS? I think SLS is social something skills. And the child said, Mommy, I don't get grades for that. Why am I attending that? And so it is just something to think about. You probably think this fancy thing, but this child is like, I won't get graded for that. And it's just boring, and they're wasting my time with that, Mommy. I could do something else in the meantime. Let's just take a little bit, let's take part of that report out of Carriacou, and then we come back, look at the pressures on our students.
Social media was abuzz on Friday morning as Minister for Curriculum and Pedagogic Affairs Kendra Matthew Stewart issued a congratulatory post to recognize the performance of Timothy Stanislaus of Hillsborough Secondary School. Timothy Stanislaus is the top performer from the sister isle of Carriacou, who recorded 16 grade 1s from his 16 CSEC subjects. Timothy tells GBN that he was happy and excited for himself while making his parents, principal, teachers, and friends proud when he got the news.
For the whole process, the whole Form 5 process, we had face-to-face classes. We didn't really have much online classes, so that really helps. So online classes, virtual classes, they didn't really have that big of an impact. And I was just happy, and grateful to be able to attend school face-to-face, where we could interact and learn better.
So there we have it. So we have a top performer out of Carriacou, and he's talking about the fact that he was happy to go to school and to be able to interact face-to-face. One of the points he made was that he was, very happy to make his teachers and the school and everybody proud. Dr. Bishop, as we get ready to wrap it up this evening, what is this thing about making people proud?
Yeah, Odette, it's becoming, I don't know what to say, because, I've been looking something at social media, and I would see parents putting on the social media, congrats to their child for getting 15 subjects, congrats for 10 subjects. The child lives home with you, and you have to go to social media to tell them congrats for the 15 subjects. And I'm wondering if at home if they're hugging the child and saying, I'm proud of you. So I think this whole thing about recognition and just wanting to be out there, that is adding pressure on lots of other children. Now, our system gives us width and no depth. And so even I'm congrats to the young man who got the 16 ones in Carriacou. I'm happy for him. But so many of our children are able to get all these passes, but there is no depth in terms of the learning. There's no application of the knowledge. So they learn for exams, and that's it. When some of the very same children get to, let's say, college, you find they're not able to perform as well, because then steps in the critical thinking aspect, where they now have to become involved in the learning itself, where teachers really do play the role of facilitating at that point. And if earlier we establish that teachers must be facilitators, differentiate the instructions, look at various learning domains, look at the children and how they learn, understand learning is a skill, and teach correctly, then perhaps the kind of pressure that's placed on children may be less. But we're all in this same basket looking for the 15 and 20. What about the child who wasn't able to read or write well when they began secondary school and did 5 and get 4 or get 3? Are we praising that child? We're not. And even our parent, the whole nation. So we're looking for a child that Hillsborough got 16. Therefore, next year, God's willing, all children want to rush to Hillsborough because the child got 16. And it happens everywhere. But the pressure is too deep on our children. It has to stop. University requires only 5 subjects to do your degree. And I'm not saying you should do only 5. A child has the ability to do more than 5. Fine, go ahead and do it. But we must look at the depth. Because when I'm saying, when the same children, you go to the job place, in other words, what kind of child are we looking to graduate from school? 1 or 15 subjects, does that define who I am? I have 15 subjects? Or I know who I am as an individual. I know myself. I'm courageous. I'm compassionate. I'm a team player. I'm able to smile at who I am. Because on the inside, so it doesn't matter so much as to what I bring to the situation, but yeah. But how I interface with other students, how I socialize. How I learn, yes.
The social skills.
And also, what do I do to contribute to nation building and so really and truly, I think we ought to stop this pressuring of this 15, 16 subjects. Yeah. Let's begin to look at depth and not at width and see our children succeed, understand who they are, and allow God to reign in their lives. We have to move differently.
Right. Jailia, as you listen to your peers, what kind of sense do you get? Is there a competitive spirit? I must do better than John or Jill or Jane or Sherry?
There are no really competitions between any of my peers. I haven't heard anybody really try to compete with each other. They just answer their questions. So I think the class that I'm in right now is pretty fine. Nobody who tries to compare themselves to one another or have a competition of who answers this best or whatever.
Okay. So, do you have that phenomenon in Jamaica, Camille, where parents are pushing their children and we find one of the pressures is the child wants to be an accountant, but the parent is saying you must be a medical doctor or a lawyer?
Right. Yeah, so what you find, it depends on the family system and the family values. So what you find in some homes is that the child is expected to perform as how the parents had performed when he or she was a child. And to maintain a certain average, that also happens within the school system. Depends on the kind of school that you go to. If you go to one of the elite schools, basically, although it is not said, as Jailia had mentioned, but it is there as a norm that it's a competitive environment. And so if you find, for example, going online becomes a challenge, right? So you find that the grades fall. So you're no longer a 90 average student. So you're now an 80 average student. What you find is these children becoming depressed because they're not functioning as they would normally. They are not getting that average that they would normally get. And then they'll compare themselves. And you may not find that being said to a peer, but you'll find that they become withdrawn, they become depressed. And so even when they come into counseling, you will hear them say, okay, but it's not everybody grades is falling because this person grades is high and this person is still functioning. And so they do compare themselves. They may not do it out publicly, but within, they do compare themselves and they do look at how other people, our children, are performing. And so that it has become an issue depending on the environment, the school environment and the family system, the value system that they're in.
Wendy, is any difference in St. Vincent? You guys don't place all of this emphasis on getting 16 ones or 20 ones or 13 or 12?
Some people do, but not everybody. We celebrate small gains.
Okay, they celebrate small gains, and I guess that means you'll celebrate me. In the interest of full disclosure, when I graduated from the Anglican High School in 1987, I graduated with 2 O-levels. English language and principles of business. It's not a reflection of the Anglican High School, it was just a reflection of me. I couldn't settle. I was just this very hippity-hoppity child, and I just thought for 5 years I just had fun and gave all the teachers trouble. So let me just make that very clear. I was just this talkative, blah, 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 all over the place, writing lines in detention every day. I graduated with 2 O-levels. So Wendy would celebrate
good stuff.
The others would say
you move from A to B.
But that's all right. We've had a very wonderful session this evening. Let me thank our panelists for that this evening. We have 30 seconds each for wrap-up comments. 30 seconds, we're on the nose of 9:30. And we started with Dr. Cheryl Bishop, 30 seconds wrap-up time. Dr. Bishop, your closing thoughts this evening?
My closing thoughts,
30 seconds.
I want every child to feel that he or she is important. I want them to realize that when you look in the mirror and you see yourself, even though what you see, that's not all of you. There's much more on the inside. And so searching deep within can pull that out. And I want parents to also know that they cannot live inside of their child or let a child live inside of them. Like give a child a chance to live and to breathe and to think and to feel and be him or herself. Of course, certainly you are going to monitor them and ensure that Christ plays an important role in their children's life.
Great. Wendy, your closing thoughts this evening?
I just want to comment on the low penetration rate. This is a double-edged sword. Online learning should make education more accessible. However, if we do not level the playing field for internet access and provide the technological tools needed to access online education, then we may be in trouble. However, if we can get the internet service right and somehow provide tools for access and improve training for teachers to deliver online education more effectively and to motivate our students to attend more regularly, then online learning could be very effective.
And as we wrap this evening, Jailia, Mitchell, is there anything you wanted to say that you want to make sure you get across before we wrap it up?
I wanted to say that I'm trying to say something similar to what Ms. Bishop said, is that you should be proud of yourself for how you're doing so far, and you shouldn't try to compare yourself to any other kid because you're doing just fine the way you are, and people should be able to see that you're trying your hardest to succeed, so they shouldn't be pressuring you so much just for you to be successful in life because you're already trying your hardest right now.
Excellent. And Camille, closing words are yours this evening. Camille, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, all right. What I want to close with actually is that students' efforts should be affirmed and not the results. So to reduce the results orientation environment, affirm their efforts and not the results. Empathize with each other, because the truth is everybody's situation is different. And so look at the factors, look at the environment, and empathize and help each other as we go along, because online is a new process for everybody, and we have to help each other as we go along. It's a process and it's going to take time. So empathize with each other and affirm, right? Affirm their efforts and not just the results.
So the word for tonight is affirmation. I want to thank Dr. Cheryl Bishop. She's an education consultant, the operator of the Beacon Learning Center, has been a school principal for almost all of her life, operating the pre-primary, primary, and secondary school at the Beacon Learning Center here in St. George, Grenada. Jailia Mitchell, she's a Form 1 student at the Beacon Learning Center, eloquently spoken and represented her peers very well this evening. Wendy Bynoe, she's a deputy principal at the CW Prescott Primary School in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and also pursuing a doctorate in teaching and learning with emerging technologies, TLET, out of the UE Open Campus in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Camille Campbell, she's an associate counseling psychologist out of Jamaica. She works with children and adolescents at Tots and Teens Caribbean. On behalf of the entire production crew here at the GBN, to you, our viewers and listeners, wherever you joined us from this evening, thank you so much for participating. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you again on the following Monday, and Monday next, I believe, is a public holiday, and we will have a fill-in program next week, but we'll see you again with another live production the following Monday. God bless you. Stay safe. So long, and we'll see you on another time.